They came in a column that stretched across 16 light minutes of approach corridor. 1,000 ships, moving in the same kill formation. The Koravan extinguishment doctrine had not changed in 640,000 years. I know this because we had studied every iteration of that doctrine since the 2nd century of the recovery. Every weapon signature, every firing sequence, every gap in their sensor net where a counterstrike could be threaded clean. I was standing on the command deck of the Varath Sky Command at 0611 local time, holding station at 18 kilometers above the Thyran coastal shelf, watching the Koravan approach through the tactical overlay. Outside the forward glass, the shelf curved away below me in the early light. The Thyran megafortress complex, visible as a pale ridge running 300 kilometers along the coast. Gun emplacements spaced at intervals I could have quoted from memory. Above us, the first orbital platforms were already pulling to readiness. The grid was waking up. Exo Marin Toel stood at the port console, running her morning debrief on the secondary batteries. I remember the sound of her voice on the internal channel. Flat, professional, checking each station in sequence. She had been my executive officer for 11 years. Before that, she had served 2 tours on Veth Station, the lunar forward base where the Long Watch crews kept their eyes open and their mouths closed for 50,000 years at a stretch. She came from that tradition. She did not raise her voice when the Koravan entered the outer system. Neither did I. The doctrine brief had been loaded into every warship AI core 617 years ago, when the Thyran Doctrinal Council completed the last revision of the Koravan counter-response package. 14 volumes. Every weapon the fleet had used against pre-stellar humanity in the extermination campaign, the borehole seeding charges they dropped through atmospheric transit, the pulse cascade arrays that shut down bioelectric function in an area the size of a continent, the slow-chain molecular dissolvers they had scattered across the surface before departing, trusting the chemistry to finish what the kinetics had started. We had salvaged examples of all of it. We had built counters for all of it. We had run live-fire exercises against reconstructed Koravan weapon systems every 12 years for the last 400 millennia, on the grounds that a counter-doctrine you have not rehearsed is not a counter-doctrine. The Koravan did not transmit a communication on approach. They did not query for life signs or broadcast a standard survey claim. They came in at combat intervals, weapon systems warm, the column spreading into an encirclement pattern as they crossed the outer boundary. The encirclement pattern was in our doctrine brief, page 1, figure 3. We knew what it meant. They intended to close the system before firing, ensuring nothing escaped and nothing called for help. It had worked, 640,000 years ago. I authorized the archive broadcast at 0634, when the column was 14 minutes from engagement range. The Koravan counter-response package included a 2-minute formal archive transmission as the first step, not because we expected it to stop them, but because we wanted the record to be complete. We wanted whatever portion of the galaxy still paid attention to know that Earth had offered the full accounting before the first shot was fired. 2 minutes of compressed transmission, every human name from the recovery census, every settled system, every built structure, every generation. 640,000 years of continuous documentation, compressed and sent at maximum broadcast power directly into the column's lead vessel. They did not slow down. At 0641, the Koravan column opened fire. The pulse cascade array was the first weapon they deployed. The same pattern as the original campaign, same frequency, same targeting aperture. Our AI cores had been running the suppression response for it since before anyone now alive was born. The Thyran coastal battery answered within 3 seconds of the first pulse bloom registering on sensors. 47 ground-based emitters, backed by 19 of the orbital platforms, transmitting a counter-frequency that had been tuned against live Koravan hardware in the doctrinal range trials at Veth Station 18 years prior. The pulse cascade dissipated at the outer edge of the engagement envelope without making contact with the surface. The borehole charges came next, 9 of them, targeted at the Thyran shelf. The shelf intercept grid, buried in the geological layer below the megafortress complex, installed in 3 phases over the last 200,000 years, destroyed 8. The 9th made it to the upper atmosphere. The Varath Sky Command moved to intercept. We took the hit at 0643. A glancing kill shot, the borehole charge detonated 40 meters off the starboard secondary hull. and the shockwave opened the forward crew quarter on decks 7 and 8 to hard vacuum before the emergency bulkheads could seal. I was on the deck when the blast hit. The ship rolled 11 degrees, and the tactical overlay went dark for 4 seconds. When it came back, damage control was already reporting 34 dead. Marin Toel was among them. She had been forward of the blast point, coordinating the secondary battery response on deck 7. The compartment was sealed before I could reach it. I did not try to reach it. There was a battle to finish. The planetary grid answered the Koravan fleet at 0644. I have read the formal engagement summary many times since, and the numbers are clean on paper. 112 orbital platforms, 57 warships including the crippled Varath Sky Command, the Thyran Coastal Battery, the Solen Array covering the northern approach corridor, the Meridian strike package deployed from 6 dispersed asteroid platforms we had maintained in deep cover for exactly this contingency. The Koravan fleet numbered 1,000 ships on approach. By 0711, 412 remained in the system, and they were no longer moving in a kill formation. They were grouping at the outer boundary, holding position, not firing. At 0719, the lead Koravan vessel broadcast a frequency query on the formal diplomatic channel, the same channel we had included in the archive transmission. I answered it myself, from the command deck, with the ship still running on emergency power and the repair crews working in suits on the starboard hull. I told them what they had found. I told them how long we had been waiting for them. I told them the archive was available in full and that any vessel wishing to receive it was welcome to come to the inner boundary under escort. I told them that any vessel wishing to leave the system was free to do so and would not be fired upon. 391 of the 412 remaining ships left the system in the next 4 hours. 21 stayed. They came to the inner boundary under escort, 4 human warships flanking them, weapons cold, the formal escort protocol we had drafted for this specific contingency 900 years earlier. Their commander, a designation I will not attempt to transliterate, received the archive package and confirmed receipt. The acknowledgement was logged and countersigned. The 21 vessels then departed the system. I have been asked, in the years since, what I felt watching them go. I felt nothing that I would call satisfaction. Satisfaction implies a conclusion, and there is no conclusion in this work. There are only moments where the accounting is brought current, where the preparation that consumed 1,000 generations is tested against the thing it was built to answer, and the answer holds. 34 people died on this ship because a borehole charge cleared the shelf grid. 34 is not a small number when you know the names. I know every name. I have read each file. I have sat with each personnel record in the hours when the ship was quiet and the repair crews were cycling off shift, and there was nothing to do except sit, with the cost of what we had done and what it had required. Marin Toel served on this ship for 11 years. Before that, she served at Veth Station for 2 tours, which means she spent close to 100 years of her career in long watch postings where the work was watching, waiting, and maintaining readiness for a contact that might never come. She did not believe it would never come. None of us did. We had the doctrine brief. We knew the Koravan had not changed their formation in 640,000 years, which meant they had no reason to believe they needed to. We gave them a reason. The Varath Sky Command was repaired and returned to active status 14 months after the engagement. I kept command. The 34 dead are listed on the ship's memorial board, Deck 6, Port Corridor. Marin Toel's name is first on the list because she was the senior officer lost. That is the convention. It is also the right order. 640,000 years ago, the Koravan came to this system and did what the extinguishment doctrine required. They believed it was finished. We never believed that. We built our entire civilization on not believing it, on the principle that a people who remember what was done to them, and who work without ceasing to answer it, are not a people who can be finished. The Thyran Shelf Megafortress complex was already back on full readiness posture when I filed the final engagement report. The doctrine brief has been updated to reflect what we learned. The next revision cycle is in 12 years. We keep working.